Welcome to B&B Movie Reviews. This week, we look under our beds and in the closet for the Boogeyman, get spicy with a new brand of Cheetos, give our official review of The Flash, and roll out with the Autobots. Stay right there. B&B is coming up next.
Sucked the life right out of them. Even if the first one was an accident, it still made us susceptible. Susceptible. To what? I don't know exactly. I only glimpsed it once. Right before my Annie's neck broke. Before they died, my kids, I thought it was just their imaginations getting the better of them. And
Lester Billings confesses to what he believes killed his children in this chilling scene from the new film adaptation of Stephen King's short story, The Boogeyman. Brian.
Yes.
We know you're not the biggest fan of scary movies.
Very true.
You're a little bit of a scaredy cat.
A little bit, yeah.
How did you react to The Boogeyman?
You know what? The Boogeyman was a movie. You know, scary movies, I'm always a little hesitant to go and see those movies.
Yeah, you got to bring your blanket with you.
Yeah, you know, got to have my blankie. But it's more with gore than actual scares. And this movie, I really responded to because I like the subject matter. I like the dynamics between the family. I like what the conversation the movie was having about grief with the family and how the Boogeyman latches on to a family, like from one family to another, as we see with the scene with David Dasmalchian, if I'm saying his name right. Something like that. But I really responded to this movie in a way I wasn't expecting.
I think that if you are going into this movie and your desire is to see a really scary and inventive, unique take on the monster in the closet story, you're not necessarily going to get that. It's not a bad version of that subgenre, but to your point, Sophie Thatcher as the lead is really good in this movie. Chris Messina as her father is excellent. The emotional core of the Boogeyman works, and honestly, that's all I'm really asking for when I go into a film like this. Do I relate to these characters? Do I feel for these characters? Am I afraid of these characters? And the answer is yes.
Yeah, and I agree. I think all the character stuff works, especially like that dynamic between Chris Messina and Sophie Thatcher, correct? I thought that dynamic between the two of them worked really well, especially considering the story that they're telling and how one person is still dealing with the grief and one person, and even though he is a therapist in this movie, he's not dealing with his own trauma of the situation.
He's doing a lot of avoidance, right?
Exactly.
He's gone through such a tragic event, the loss of his wife. And it's, tearing the family apart, and enter the Boogeyman, right? So as a setup, like there's enough to build a film around there. Rob Savage, the director, I think also does some nifty things with the camera.
Yes.
And it is a jump scare movie. There's no denying that. So if you go into this with your arms crossed, going like, scare me, it's not going to do it for you. That being said, the jump scares in my theater, we're working.
I think it does work. The jump scares really do work. I think they do some inventive things with the jump scares. There's one very emotional jump scare with Sophie Thatcher, I think, in the basement with something that...
Was that your favorite jump scare?
Possibly. There was one with the actual Boogeyman.
So there's it does the thing where there's a dream, like there's a scare within the dream, and you think that the character is just living her life, and she shuts the door, and then the Boogeyman bursts through the door. I nearly left my skin.
Really?
I did, yeah. And, goosebumps all up and down my body. I'm a sucker for that kind of stuff, but I am also the person who's like, that's not real horror. You can do both. You can do both.
No, I think you can live with and that's another thing, going to the rating. I think you can live with like an R rating or a PG-13, this movie being PG-13. I want to go back to what you were...
I never thought about that.
Yeah.
I never thought about it. To me, it was as scary as it needed to be.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not a gore fest. This is not Evil Dead Rise.
No, no.
I don't want to compare movies. It's not really the thing that I like to do. But if I was choosing a film, I'd probably choose The Boogeyman over Evil Dead Rise. I'm just that type of person.
I'm with you.
Okay. All right.
But I want to go back to Rob Savage. I mean, he's a director. I believe this is his first actual. Well, he's done movies in the past where there have been more found footage films that he's done.
Yeah, he did that Shudder film, Host, I believe.
Yeah. And so this is his, like, I guess, proper film that's not like a found footage type of movie.
And if you're going to dive into doing a film like this, you might as well grab a Stephen King short story as your spine.
Yeah, and he does, like you were saying, he does some really great things with the camera. Then the openings, not the opening scene, but like that first scene with Sophie Lyria Blair.
Yeah, and how they gave her this like ball of light, this little
like
basketball
this
of light that she would roll into the shadows.
And the way they use that, and like how she looks under the bed, and the way he moves the camera, and it feels like a director who knows exactly what he's trying to do with that.
And the sound design with that ball of light, like as it's rolling into the corner of a closet, or as she rolls it under the bed, that.
What you think of when we get to that third act, the design of the Boogeyman?
I think it's one of the weaker elements, right? It ends up being a CGI creature. They mask a lot of it, but maybe they don't mask enough of it. I think it gets maybe a little silly, and the third act is the least interesting act of the film.
Same.
But even the third act pays off the emotional beat and the grief that the family is dealing with.
And that's what I love about it. What's your rating for this one?
Shocked, B+.
Same, a B+ for me. One of the better horror movies. I haven't seen a lot of horror movies, but one of the better ones I've seen this year. So yeah, those are our thoughts on the Boogeyman. When we return, we're going to take a look at the origins of the Flamin Hot Cheetos. Stay right there.
You're not gonna get it all right. Just make sure you nail the big stuff.
Mama!
Like making sure your kids are in the right seat for their age and size. Get it right at nhtsa.gov/the-right-seat.
Ow, burn!
Bird's good or bird's bad?
It burned good.
Oh! Oh, we did! Yeah! Of course we did!
Richard Montañez uses his family as his focus group to find the right flavors that burn good for his Flamin' Hot Cheetos in the inspiring true story, Flamin' Hot. All right, Brad.
Yes.
So, Flamin' Hot, this is the inspired by true events.
They're changing how they refer to this film. Based on a true story, inspired by a true story. There's some debate as to who created the Flamin' Hot Cheetos.
Yeah, but I don't know. This movie, Flamin' Hot, directed by Eva Longoria, I don't believe this is his first, I don't know if this is her first feature film, but I know that she's directed in the past. And, she takes this story about Richard and his wife, Judy. He works at the Frito-Lay factory as a janitor.
It's a great story, right?
It's a great story.
Janitor to, CEO. The inventor of the Flamin' Hot Cheetos. You can see why someone would want to make this film.
Yeah.
And they did. They did, Brian.
So what are some of your thoughts? Talk to me, Brad.
Brian, sometimes I encounter a film and I respond to it as a movie.
Yes, you do.
Sometimes I love movies, right? Yeah. There's a layer of unreality to Flaming Hot that did not work for me. And so I never engaged with this movie as if it was a true story in any way. The comedy in this, is tonally off to my tastes. And as a result, I just didn't buy the narrative.
It's funny you say that because I think that's probably one of my biggest critiques about it is probably the tone of it. But going to your point, like you were saying, like there's some movies, especially when you get to biopics and movies that are based on true stories, like some of them work. We just saw one earlier this year, Air. And then we have movies like The Social Network, that it takes that idea. I'm not going to compare this to The Social Network.
Like, even bringing Air up, which was a movie to me.
Well, I think that felt like it had a little more of that it gets away from that kind of sheen that is kind of in the movie this movie.
Yeah, it's very generous to put Flamin Hot in the same sentence with those other two movies.
But I don't know. For me, I responded to it. I like the performances from
Jesse Garcia is fantastic.
Jesse Garcia,
yes,
and from Annie Gonzalez, who plays Judy. And I think that is really the core of the story, is their relationship and how the movie kind of focuses in on their backstory, their history, before we even get to the factory.
I like the story.
Okay.
And I think there is a version of Flaming Hot that I would have enjoyed. But the one that we got just felt so phony.
Yeah.
And it felt like some Hollywood person's idea of how this story went down rather than how it actually went down.
Yeah.
And it's so goofy. Like some of the jokes that they throw in there about, the Midwest corporation making their version. And like the way that those scientists are behaving is so ridiculous. And Tony Shalhoub as, the head cheese.
Yeah, Enrico.
I don't remember his name because I know nothing about Frito-Lay, Brian. And this movie gave me no information to remember. But Tony Shalhoub as the head of Frito-Lay with the wig that he's got on, with the thick makeup eyebrows.
Yeah.
He's such a cartoon. And that's the word. The movie feels like a cartoon. And I love cartoons.
Yeah.
Cartoons are not, to use the word cartoon, the descriptor cartoon is not a pejorative in my mind.
Yeah.
But it does speak to the reality of what we're watching here. And because we are dealing in a cartoon reality, a movie reality, I checked out.
Well, I think, and you're right. That's completely fair. You're absolutely right.
But it works for you. If you're having a good time with it, I can't counter that.
No, but going to your point as far as it feeling like a cartoon, I think for me, it kind of established that early in the film. So I kind of was able to go into the movie kind of knowing or expecting a certain type of tone and what to expect throughout the rest of the course of this movie. And so as the movie played out, I don't know, I was able to kind of readjust as far as like how I was watching it. And a lot of those moments, like especially like a lot of the stuff between him and his father. I think there's a great scene where he goes to visit his father where he's trying to offer him a full-time job.
It's probably the best scene in the movie.
Yeah, and that scene, like it really, I thought was really effective. And even just, again, going to that relationship that he has with Judy and seeing that she was by his side the whole time, and the movie really using that as the crux of the film.
Even the child actors are really strong in it. Like, if I believed in anything, I believed in them as a family unit, and I enjoyed my time with them. Yeah. It was just the way that they moved through that time.
I get it. I get it. What's your? I think I know. But what's your rating for this?
Well, we're the B&B show.
Yes.
We like something, we give it a B+. We don't like something, we give it a B-.
Yeah.
And when I got to the end of Flamin' Hot, I had to fall on the B- side.
Yeah, a lot of the stuff worked for me. I think it starts for me with the characters. I got invested into those characters and just following their journey through their eyes and through their journey. It worked for me. So I'm gonna give this a B+.
All right.
So we split on this one. So yeah, those are our thoughts on Flamin' Hot. When we return, Barry Allen is traversing universes. We give our review when we return. Stay right there.
If you need to do something to feel okay to drive, you're not okay to drive. Don't drive buzzed.
we get this Superman, then you're on your own.
You are, and you're...
Yeah. I'm Batman.
Worlds collide when Bruce Wayne agrees to help Barry Allen, revealing himself to be Batman in Andy Muschietti's The Batman. Oh, I mean, The Flash. The Flash, Brian. We're talking about The Flash, not The Batman.
No.
Despite all the marketing of this movie making it look like a Batman film, but it is absolutely a Flash movie.
It is.
The greatest comic book movie of all time. Why is that so, Brian? Go.
Because it has Michael Keaton as Batman?
No, it's not the greatest comic book movie of all time.
It's really not.
The hype around The Flash is extreme. And if I had any advice to our viewers, it would be to manage your expectations.
Please manage your expectations. But the movie came out this past weekend. We're not going to give any spoilers, but we could talk about this movie freely as far as our thoughts. So let's get into what really works about this movie. And I think we both can agree that the one thing that is kind of being ignored in the marketing of this movie is Barry Allen and the Flash.
Well, being ignored for probably some good reasons. Ezra Miller, complicated figure.
Very much so. But within the context of this movie, the performance that they give in the movie, I think is really, really good. Especially like the performance with the two versions of Barry Allen and the story that's being told.
Absolutely agree. I think Ezra Miller is actually the highlight of the film, which makes things again a little troubling. They are amazing, playing opposite of each other. The story of the two Barrys is the most compelling element of the film. When we finally get to that, where Flash, enters the Speed Force and enters the Chrono Bowl. And discovers that he has the ability to change the past and rescue his mother from her heinous fate. And in doing so, he creates two Barrys. Well, sort of. It involves time travel. I don't want to get into it. I don't comic book stuff. But he gets to a point where he is encountering his younger self. And what I like about that is, you always think about, like, what would you tell your high school self? Would you even like your high school self? Would your high school self like you? And that tension between the two Barrys is delightful.
Yeah, I think all of that stuff works really well. And like you were saying, going to those points, would each version of the older self and your younger self, like how would you view yourself, and some of the envy and the jealousy that one version of yourself might have because of the things that you might be missing out on.
Right, so Barry Allen goes back in time, rescues his mother, and makes a Barry Allen that never had the trauma of losing his mother. And is that Barry Allen a Barry Allen you want to be?
Exactly.
Right? And that jealousy and that anger that the older Flash has to the younger Flash now, like, I wish the film dug into that a little bit more. But then we break off and we have to bring in the Batmen and the Superwomen.
Let's get into that. Let's get into some of the more superhero aspects of this movie, which I think are some of, for me personally, I'll speak for myself, are some of the lesser aspects of this movie that I think don't work as well, because we're getting more, at least to me, feels a little bit more nostalgia based, and and that word's been thrown around so many times, and I know it's a catch-all word and it's a triggering word, but the way that this movie uses nostalgia,
the movie is weaponizing your memory. Right?
Yes.
I love Michael Keaton as Batman. I love 1989's film. I love Batman Returns. The idea of bringing him back into the cinematic landscape is very tantalizing. But do they do that Batman justice in this movie?
Unfortunately,
is this a good version of Michael Keaton's Batman?
Unfortunately, I don't think they do. And then also introducing the Supergirl cinematically, I believe, for the first time.
Helen Slater. Let's not forget Helen Slater.
I apologize.
No Helen Slater erasure around here.
But I don't think they really use her effectively in the movie as well.
I think she is a strong character, a strong performance, but she is also mainly a plot element, and we don't really get to dig dig into what's going on inside Supergirl's head.
Yeah.
Sasha Calle is great
Yeah,
as
she's
the
really
character.
good. The
but,
performances around are good.
you know, we move so quickly once we introduce her into a big brawl with Michael Shannon's Zod.
Yeah.
But is Michael Shannon on set when they made this movie?
That still remains to be seen.
He's a little floating head in that suit.
Let's get a little bit, no spoilers, but I know that you had some conflict with the ending.
I think the last few minutes, the big spoilers of this movie are actually offensive, and in the way that they are executed. I think they are also a shining light of what's to come. And what I'm afraid is out there in our cinematic future and the way movies are going to get made.
Just with the filmmaking of it and what is possible.
And what's possible.
Yeah.
And so they introduced some elements in the very last moments of this film, and that's where they're really going like, remember, you like these things, you like them today. And honestly, no, let's get back to the two Barrys.
Yeah, I think that was the strongest point. And again, like one thing I noticed about the movie that really kind of rubbed me the wrong way was like, we get so focused onto plot, like everything is plot driven, and we lose, I think, especially in that middle act, we lose a little bit of the story. We get back to that with the story between Barry and the loss of his mother, and there's a really great scene towards the end, but to me it felt like it was a little too late when we got to that scene, because I don't feel that throughout the course of the movie.
You're so distracted by the ridiculous thing that happens that you forget what this movie's actually about.
Exactly. What's your rating for this movie?
I like more than I dislike.
Okay.
I am going to end up giving it a B+, but I'm also going to ask our fellow press people, when you attend screenings months in advance, cool your jets, calm down.
Please.
The film is fine.
Yeah, for me, I'm gonna go B-. I love the story between the two Barrys. I think Ezra Miller gives a fantastic performance. I think when we get to that third act, it gets a little unwielding and a little mind-numbing for me.
Craps the bed.
Where it just loses me. So unfortunately, I'm giving this a B-. So. Yeah, those are our thoughts on The Flash. When we return, there is more than meets the eye when it comes to the Transformers, so stay right there.
Every 2 minutes, a woman is diagnosed with breast cancer. With your help, we can end breast cancer. We are all stronger together.
That felt good! I've been cooped up forever, dude. This is probably a lot for you, huh? Hey, whoa, I thought after the car chase we were boys. What are you? The name's Mirage. Come on, give me a little tap. Give me a little tap. There you go, now we're friends. Oh, great, the gang's here. They're more like you?
You brought a human here?
I'm nobody. I ain't even seen nothing. I'm not even seeing anything right now.
Noah Diaz gets caught in the middle of a galactic war when he gets trapped in a car that's more than meets the eye in the latest Transformers film, Rise of the Beasts.
Here we go.
Here we go, Brad. So Rise of the Beasts, Transformers. We've had, what, 6 films?
Yeah, this is the 7th Transformer film.
Transformers?
If we don't count the original Transformers, the movie
that's
animated
right.
movie.
That's right.
Yeah.
So yeah, coming off of Bumblebee, which this movie does, kind of reference in small degrees.
Yeah,
so we
Bumblebee
know that
was in the 80s. This is what, 1994?
So this is 7 years later because Bumblebee was in 87. This is in Brooklyn, New York. I gotta tell you, man, like I had a lot of fun watching this movie, and I think it works more than it doesn't. So, what are some of your thoughts on?
Shocking. 2 40-year-olds really like ate up this nostalgia. It's funny. We were just going like, nostalgia's the enemy, man. The Flash is garbage. You know what? I love the Wu-Tang Clan.
Yes,
yeah,
I know.
You know, and you go into Noah Diaz's room, and it's like suddenly my childhood bedroom.
I mean, like you say, growing up in the '90s, being teens. scenes of the 90s, I mean, with the Poetic Justice poster, his younger brother, for me, wearing that Mighty Morphin Power Rangers t-shirt, I'm just like, ooh, it's like you get seeing all these like little nods.
Honestly, from the opening of Rise of the Beasts, where we're off-world and we meet Unicron, Brian, Unicron, and Scourge, and Optimus Primal, and I just ate all that stuff up. The opening action scene I thought was extremely exciting. Violent in the way that all these Transformers movies are ridiculously violent, but in the best way possible. Scourge is as scary as anything in the Boogeyman.
Yeah, he is, especially in that opening scene when we're off planet with the Maximals.
And Peter Dinklage is killing it with the voice acting there.
Really
Ron Perlman as Optimus Primal, also really good. Then we go to Noah Diaz's storyline, and I enjoy it. I enjoy the story between him and his brother. His brother, has sickle cell, and needs money, needs health care, and he lives in America, and he's not going to get it.
Yeah.
And so you got that little emotional setup. And then you bring in Mirage, the Autobots, the Trans Warp Key, whatever.
I mean, of course, we get the MacGuffin, and that's just a way to kind of propel the story forward. But it really is that story with Noah Diaz, and then, of course, with his younger brother. And then, we kind of get that old boy and his dog story that we got in the original movie with Shia LaBeouf and Bumblebee. But now we have Anthony Ramos and Pete Davidson voicing Mirage.
I was really worried about, because when I heard that Pete Davidson was voicing Mirage, I was like, I don't know, friends.
And
he's great.
It felt like in the beginning with that scene that we just saw and like how he's going about his performance that, okay, this could be a little grating as the movie. If he continues at this level, it can get a little annoying, but it never does, and it always works. And there's some great moments between the two of them, especially as we get closer to the third act of the film.
As directed by Stephen Cable Jr., who did Creed 2, which was a fine Creed sequel. Not my favorite Creed sequel. We've talked about that one. It's called Creed 3.
Yes.
He is obviously a big fan of this property, and it does feel like he's in his bedroom playing with his action figures, but that's really all I want out of a Transformers movie, because you didn't always get that with the Michael Bay movies.
You didn't.
A lot of heart in this one.
There's a lot of heart. It continues that. It continues those themes and that kind of aesthetic from Bumblebee, but with kind of bringing in that Michael Bay kind of those big action set pieces. I got to go to the needle drops. We talk about that a lot. This being 94, especially in the beginning with Brooklyn, New York, we get so many great needle drops. I'm not going to spoil too many of them.
Can we talk about the one that I love the most?
Oh, was that towards the end?
Yeah, towards the end.
Oh,
I'm not going to describe the scenario around it.
Okay.
But we've heard LL Cool J's "Mama Said Knock You Out" a lot in a lot of movies, right? And it's pretty cliche. Best use of that song ever in a movie.
It's so good. It's so good. And then especially, and even with the chase with Mirage in New York and the song that they use for that. And sometimes needle drops are just kind of put into the movie just to kind of place you in a setting.
You've already mentioned this movie once, Air, Ben Affleck's film.
Yes, I know. Even though I love that movie, but the way they use the needle drops and kind of complementing the scenes and telling the story, I thought is really effective with this.
It's almost Tarantino-esque. I know that sounds like hyperbole, but I think we're there with Transformers: Rise of the Beast.
Now, we're not going to give any spoilers, but the experience of watching this, specifically with the end of this movie, the very end, there is a spoiler that we're not going to talk about, but with our screening, it erupted the theater.
People were screaming. We were screaming.
Yeah.
Everyone was screaming. And I hope if you're watching this show, it hasn't been spoiled for you. But if it hasn't, you better get to a theater real quick.
Yeah, and watch this, because it's something that we didn't see coming. Because it's funny, though, when we see like post-credit, mid-credit scenes.
The Flash, all the spoilers for The Flash are out there. The director's telling the spoilers of The Flash in interviews.
So this just felt
idea.
Yeah, so this just felt old school when it came to that. But let's get to the rating. What's your rating for this one?
Okay. It has some problems in the third act. Yeah. It slows down. It's sluggish. It isn't just a Transformers movie. Loved it, B+.
Same, B+ easily. One of the best experiences watching a movie this summer. A lot of fun watching this movie. So yeah, those are our thoughts on Transformers: Rise of the Beast. So let's recap the movies that we reviewed this week on the show. We start with The Boogeyman. We both give that a B+. We go to Flamin Hot. Brad gave that a B-. That was a B+ for me. We move on to The Flash. Brad gives that a B+. Unfortunately for me, that was a B-. And for Transformers: Rise of the Beast, we both give that a B+.
Crazy.
Yes. So thank you for joining us on this latest episode of B&B Movie Reviews. Come be a part of the conversation. If you have questions, suggestions, feel free to email us at bnbmoviereviews@gmail.com. And with that, we'll see you at the movies.